going to walk through an overview of it, and I'm going to provide you a little video, and then you through how you can get the power out of it. I'll be doing a demo for you as well inside of our meeting that we're having today, so you can see my direct experience inside of Copilot, inside of a Teams meeting. But for all of you that this is brand new and you're wondering, and you're not even an early access program person, meaning that you weren't in that yet, your company might be even looking at Copilot. I'm going to just do a level set and a baseline around what is Copilot. But a little bit about me. I am, of course, running, the president of this user group, along with all my board members, and organizing this for you on a monthly basis, as well as our biannual workshop days. I work at Microsoft. I am a M365 Cloud Solution Architect focused on Copilot. So all things Copilot is what I've been doing in the early access program, or what you might think of as the private preview experience of Copilot. We did announce on November 1st general availability. What that means, and I know there's some caveats in some of that. What that means is it is now available for purchase with your M365 E3 or E5 license. The minimum license requirement is 300 users. We have to do that in order to scale, and especially to support some of our resources in our backend infrastructure. So hopefully, will I cover licensing for Copilot? I certainly can get the questions. Let me cover what it is, and we can dive there if we need to. Just a quick answer on that too, Matt, is that it is $30 per user per month for the M365 Copilot license. That's the retail price. If you're have an enterprise agreement, a contract with Microsoft, it may be reduced based on whatever your contractual agreement is. And then the question I think will be, okay, how do I get the return on that investment? And how am I going to measure how my company can save time and quantify that? All right, that could be an entire hour as well, if not more. We are working in that space to build out those value calculators. But think of it like this. What in your organization are you trying to improve on? And then how Copilot can help you. Will a 300 minimum change in the future? I am not sure. I haven't heard anything. Ignite might have more information that they haven't told me. I do work in the field, so I do work hand in hand with the Copilot engineers. And I have not heard of anything changing on the 300 minimum. But again, they're not telling me anything that they're going to announce at Ignite. So you should hear something there if there is a change. So with that, I'll go ahead and move into M365 Copilot, give you an overview of what it is. But why don't we first start off with a video? All right, so many of those capabilities are here today inside of M365 Copilot in the apps that you use, like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, and so forth. I really think of this as this really is the age of AI. It is completely going to change, I think, our own personal productivity, our team productivity, and our organization productivity. There's just a new era, I think, of innovation on how we can get work done that is now a lot more automated. I want to first talk to you also about how digital debt is really costing us a lot of innovation. The pace and volume of work is unlike anything we've ever experienced before. I think we can all agree we don't have enough time to do or energy to do our job, right? 64% of us actually say that. We are triple booked. We have multiple projects as companies are downsizing or really thinning out their employees. The work doesn't go away, right? We still need to get the work done. And what we do usually 57% of the time is spent communicating, right? That's us in a meeting, that's us in email, that's us in Teams and our chats and our group chats and our channels. And another 43% of us is creating things, right? We have to create a presentation, we have to create a budget, we have to create a marketing plan, and so forth. And knowing that these things are happening, we also know there's going to be this huge AI impact, right? This new AI employee alliance, if you will, where 49% of people say they're worried AI is going to replace their jobs. I don't have any worry like that, but I think people feel that. I think people felt that when we rolled out the cloud, right? This concept of our job will be replaced. But then 70% of us would delegate as much work as possible to AI so we can reduce some of our workload, right? We know that. And now where I think employees need a new AI aptitude, and you can see some of the trend there, is around this concept called prompt engineering. I think this is going to hit a lot of the different schools in order to return a better result. And what I mean by that, and I'll certainly get into it, is the way and what are the essential ingredients of a good prompt. We have 4 years been conditioned to search in a keyword indexed format, meaning we need to know that one word or group of words using some sort of quotes around them in order to retrieve the response we're looking for. No longer will we need to do that. It will go back to exactly how we communicate with each other in order to get that response that we're looking for. So I'll give you an example of that in just a little bit. This one slide absolutely just floors me when I look at it. It took 16 years for mobile phones to reach 100 million users. It took the internet 7 years. It took Facebook 4.5 years. And for ChatGPT to have reached 100 million users, it only took 3 months. I think we can all agree we're super excited about what AI can actually do for us. I'm glad to see that number. I'm glad to see people leaning into it instead of being afraid of it, because it really will help assist us with our job. And of course, I think our personal life. So here's some terminology. I love to level set on what are the terminology out there that we need to know about. The first one is large language models. This is a deep learning algorithm that can recognize, summarize, translate, predict, generate, and other forms of content based on knowledge gained by massive data sets. Every organization has them. Our text, just thinking of our personal use of our mobile device and texting. One example is autocomplete. That is a large language model. It's trying to predict what you might say next. That is a part of a large language model. ChatGPT, if you are not familiar with what that is, definitely do some searching on it if you're not one of those 100 million users that have already looked at it. But it is an AI model. it engages in a different way. It engages conversationally, right? It's a chatbot. It was developed by OpenAI, and it understands human-like text based on prompts from users. So again, like probably autocomplete, it works by predicting the next word in a given text. And based on patterns, it has learned from this massive amount of data during its training process. Now, how is that both of those in relation to M365 Copilot? We use a combination of large language models, and these include pre-trained models, such as, so if you want to understand GPT, that stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. And there's been different versions of them over some time now. You might be familiar with GPT 3.5. Now they've rolled out 4. So those are some of the LLMs that have been pre-trained. What we've done in the space of M365 Copilot is that we partnered with ChatGPT to bring in those large language models into our Azure OpenAI service. And why we did that is to ensure that we can have security and compliance around your tenant boundary to connect to that, and that you're not going outside to the internet to get that information. So when you think of Copilot, think of it in 3 ways. It's a combination of the large language model in our Azure OpenAI service, connected to the Microsoft Graph, which really equates to your data. This is very similar when you think of it's your identity. It knows who you are. It knows who you're connected to. It knows what files in SharePoint, OneDrive, the chats that you have inside of your email or in Teams. It understands all of that, right? It's all security trimmed and based on your permission policies. And then we combine that inside of our Microsoft 365 apps. And those apps we have first started rolling out over the last few months in the preview program, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and in Teams. So in a Teams chat, a Teams meeting, I'll give you a demo of what that looks like today, as well as more products that we're coming out with. There is a public roadmap, so you're going to see we have a next wave of products that we're putting Copilot into. But then more importantly, I'd say my favorite and the most utilized is a Teams app called M365 Chat. It is leveraged across all the places that you have access to in Microsoft 365. So think of that as your calendar, your email, your chat, your contacts, your files, and so forth. That's the most robust experience. When you're asking questions inside of that location, it knows all of those endpoints and will retrieve that for you. Whereas maybe you're in Microsoft Word, you can have it generate something, but it's not going out to anything that maybe you have access to. And then as you experience maybe, for instance, Microsoft Word, it can do some of that drafting of content for you. So reducing your need to build the content and starting really when I think of like a blank page, sometimes it's hard to fill that in. Have Copilot be that first initial assistant for you. And then you can open up Copilot from the ribbon and you can ask your content questions. So not only can it generate, but you can also interact with your content. So how Microsoft 365 Copilot works, I'm going to give you another video. And I want you to just, if you're not in a technical role, that's completely okay. But this gives you at least a good overview of how we are creating the product and how we are orchestrating the capability around prompting and responding. And then we're going to dive in a little bit deeper about what some of that terminology is.
Microsoft 365 Copilot is powered by what we call the Copilot system, a sophisticated processing and orchestration engine. It harnesses the power of 3 foundational technologies: the Microsoft 365 apps, that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and more. The Microsoft Graph, that's all your content and context, your emails, files, meetings, chats, and calendar. And a large language model, or LLM, a creative engine capable of parsing and producing human-readable text. All accessible through natural language. It starts with a prompt from you in an app. Copilot pre-processes the prompt through an approach called grounding. Put simply, grounding improves the quality of the prompt, so you get answers that are relevant and actionable. One of the most important parts of grounding is making a call to the Microsoft Graph to retrieve your business content and context. Copilot combines this user data from the graph with other inputs to improve the prompt. It then sends that modified prompt to the LLM. You may be familiar with what an LLM can do based on your experience with ChatGPT or Bing Chat. Copilot takes the response from the LLM and post-processes it. This post-processing includes additional grounding calls to the graph, responsible AI checks, security, compliance and privacy reviews, and command generation. Finally, Copilot sends a response to the user and commands back to the apps. Copilot iteratively processes and orchestrates these sophisticated services to produce a result that feels like magic.
Excuse me. Okay, so if you're an architect on the call, this slide is out there for you. And it's, I think, in one of our Learn sites. And I'll make sure I can throw a link in there, or maybe Don can locate it for me and throw a link. But this is our basic architecture. So how we're leveraging in the data flow, as you see before you, is that you first start off with a prompt. We're going to get into the art of a prompt in a little bit, but really initially you create the prompt. It goes through our Copilot orchestration, right? It first goes into that model, into the graph, because what we're doing is we're trying to secure all of your data. And as it goes through the graph, it's going to go back out to the large language model to retrieve the quickest, most concise information based on your prompt, and come back in, do some post-processing, so forth, and come back to you. Why I wanted to have this slide up, I really wanted to tell you the key pieces here is that you are in your own Microsoft 365 tenant. So what that means is it adheres to your compliance, your security configurations. In a large language model, again, it's in our Microsoft service boundary that you all leverage in some of the capabilities, and that's in Azure OpenAI. But then there's this other area, or this other capability here called semantic index. Why I think that's probably one of the most pivotal things to understand out of this diagram is that we're indexing data differently. When you get assigned a Copilot license, you, as your user account, gets a new index, if you will. So think of search architecture. Within search, you go into SharePoint, you go into MS Search, wherever. You put in your search, and usually that's keyword. That's all of the data that's indexed via keywords. We're now re-indexing data based on semantic indexing. And so I'm going to give you an overview, another quick short video on semantic indexing so you understand it. Basically, what I want you to take away from here is that it's based on relationships and concepts. It knows who you are, your identity as it relates to your files, your communication, the people that you work with, people on your team. It understands your directory attributes, so it knows how to connect you to the different places. For instance, it knows that I work at Microsoft, I work in the US, I work on a team, it knows my department, it knows I'm based out of our Edina office in the Microsoft Technology Center, it knows who my manager is, and so forth. And because it knows all these things, that's all based on the graph. In terms of the way that I prompt the data, it will also follow what I have permission for and understand the relationship that I have in connection to all these things. So let's go ahead and take a quick video look at semantic indexing.
Semantic Index for Copilot creates a sophisticated map of your personal and company data, identifying relationships and making important connections. In fact, your brain works like a semantic index by encoding multiple words and pictures to create a larger conceptual map of information. For example, a semantic map of what the average person knows about elephants would include things like elephants have trunks, and elephants travel in herds, and elephants live in Africa. Today, people are mostly familiar with keyword search, which relies on exact words and phrases. So, when you search for March sales report, you get a list of documents that include exactly those three words. But a semantic index understands that sales reports are produced by Kelly on the finance team and published each month as an Excel file. And it encodes all of these concepts and relationships between concepts in vectors in the index. Semantic Index for Copilot analyzes your data. That's all your emails, documents, calendar, chats, and more in the Microsoft Graph, and uses a large language model, or LLM, to map all your content and the relationships between your content and you, searching through billions of vectors to find the most relevant results in milliseconds. It's what enables Microsoft 365 Copilot to deliver personalized, relevant, and actionable responses, and do so in a secure, compliant, privacy-preserving way. Semantic Index for Copilot enables every organization to be AI ready.
All right. Hopefully that gave you a better understanding of the difference between keyword indexing and semantic indexing. Like I said, it's using the same search architecture. Some of the things you might think of is the relationships that you have with each other and the relationships you have when you share information. So it does understand that things are shared with you. So that's one of the important pieces in order for it to return, is that it does need to be, if it's somebody that shared it with you, for you to retrieve that. It looks like there is a question from Howard. I hopefully it's a quick one. I want to save questions for certainly the end, but go ahead if you want to come off mute. All right, I'm going to continue. If you have a question, throw it in the chat, or we'll go ahead and take them afterwards, just so we can keep the pace going. So some of the things here on this slide is really around M365 Copilot being grounded in your business data. It has real-time access to both your content and context in the Microsoft Graph. This really isn't any different than search, right? It has real-time access as you save a file, modify a file, share a file, and so forth. Somebody shares it with you, that gets indexed, so you can retrieve that in search. Same thing is true. You can retrieve that in the M365 Copilot experience. It is comprehensive security, compliance, and privacy. What I mean by that, and this was really important before we rolled out the product, that it would inherit your security, compliance, privacy policies that you do already have set up in your admin centers. One announcement that we had back on the 1st when we announced general availability of Copilot is that it is label aware. So it does understand your sensitivity labels and adheres to any policies that you might have. It is architected to protect your data. So that really means that it doesn't leave your secure partition, right? You have your tenant, it has a tenant boundary, you have a service boundary with us, and the data is never used for any of the training purposes. It's integrated. I think I told you for sure we start off with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and the more is just going to continue to build. So when you think of more, some things that we already are rolling out is Copilot and Whiteboard, Copilot in OneNote, and there'll just be more and more to come. So just know that that's something we take important, is that we're building all of that in mind of what are the applications that are the most important to you guys. All right, individual user and admin. User decides what to use, modify, or discard. That's true for anything that we share inside of search. And it is designed to learn new skills. So as Copilot learns about processes, it can perform more sophisticated tasks and queries. And I'm seeing that a lot right now as customers are creating use cases that are really complex, and that Copilot's really meeting that challenge for them. Okay, so harnessing the power. I mean, this is really, okay, great. We learned about Copilot, large language models, ChatGPT, how it's architected and using an orchestration system. We also have semantic index. It's a whole new way that our actual data is being indexed personally and at the tenant level. And that's all great, but now how do we use it? Because many of us either might be the admin of this, or we might be the end user. And how do we really gain the value? We're thinking here about 3 different ways, being able to unleash creativity. As we've learned earlier in the statistics, is that, say, a good portion of our job, I think it was like 47%, is that we have to create material, something, right? A project plan, report, a budget, and we need to deliver it to somebody, right? We may have executive reports that we create to maybe do a usage report or an adoption report or a budget report, and all these things we usually have to be created from scratch. We want to help with that inside of these products. Another one is productivity, unlocking your core productivity, being able to summarize things really, really quickly, and have actions be taken for you. And then, of course, up-leveling skills. Master what you've learned. And what I mean by that is that you can ask it questions so you can understand and interpret data better. And what I mean by that is you can ask it to simplify for you terminology. I can go inside of M365 chat and I can say, I don't understand semantic index. Please explain it to me as if I were a child. And it gives me an incredible scenario that I understand. Or if I'm looking to ask it and I need more complex details, I can ask it to also provide more complex understanding of the indexing process as it relates to M365 Copilot, right? So there's varying things that can help you around the skill building. But what we're thinking about as far as types of prompts here, when you get started with M365 Copilot, the capabilities and the types of prompts that you can do are these core ones. The first one is learn. You want Copilot to teach about something, a new topic like semantic index, and you can say, what is semantic index? What is semantic index versus keyword index? Explain it to me as if I were a child or a 5th grader. You can have it get more technical for you as well. So think of it as, I know we haven't really talked about this too much, but really Copilot, it is like your digital assistant or the intern you never knew you needed, and a very sophisticated one at that. And so you can ask it really about anything and have it return that result for you. Create. You want Copilot to write something for you, such as a slogan, a caption, a story. I use it mainly for drafting an email or to draft a Word document. Matter of fact, I have a pretty good story. Probably about 3 months ago, I was going out to a conference to speak in Seattle, and I hadn't yet put together any material for the presentation I was doing. It was brand new. I mean, I had ideas of what I thought will probably go into it, but I asked Copilot to create an outline of teams in a regulated industry for a 1-hour presentation. And it was about 95% perfect. I think I threw out one thing, so I'm like, oh, I don't really want to talk about that part. But I've leveraged it to actually give me a jump start on some of the material that I might need to create, and use that as kind of the support system or my intern to go do that work for me. So the creation is really, really incredible. Summarization, I think that is my number one. That is the ability to condense something really long into a shorter or more concise way. I'll give you an example of that in our at the end here. When I go into our Teams meeting, I'm going to have it summarize our meeting. I'm also going to just show you some of the things that you can do to recap a meeting as well. But there are other areas that you can leverage summarize besides a Teams meeting. You can have it summarize an email thread. I give this example, but I bet I'm not alone in this. You get an email from someone. I don't know why, but it always seems to happen like Friday at 4 p.m. And it's a long thread, right? There's been 10, 15 people maybe involved in emailing back and forth. Well, finally, they added you onto it and asked you, what do you think? You have no context, right? You have to now, you want to be done with your day. And the last thing you want to do is spend an hour going thread by thread. Okay, wait, this person got added. They had this input. This person then chimed in, and you're just going through, and then you're like, okay, now what's my opinion? I think that that's a really difficult thing, and it takes a lot of time. I'll say that does happen to me a lot. And so I can instantly just click summary, and it will summarize that thread. It'll give me the top 4 bullet points, and tell me, or immediately give me enough information for me to take action. So I absolutely think summarize is probably one of the greatest things that types of prompts that we have in Copilot today. Especially if any of you out there maybe like to go on vacation, coming back, it can be really painful to your organization if you've missed things that you need to get caught up on. So one of the probably other extremely valuable things that I use is summarize a meeting. And like I said, I will show you this. But if you have the Teams meeting and it does require transcription or recording, which recording equals transcription too, if that's enabled, then you can interact with Copilot during the meeting or even after the meeting. So I can go into last week's calendar. I can go into the meeting inside of Teams, and I can go into Copilot and I can ask it to summarize or recap the meeting for me. I can also do things like, what were there any action items that were designated for myself? What were the main points, or were there any decisions made inside of this meeting? Give it to me in a table format. Were there pros and cons to making that decision? Were there any technical issues that were raised that were not addressed? What were the list of questions in the meeting and what were the answers? Create an FAQ for me around that. So you can just imagine what you can do. Even though you've missed the meeting, you can get all of that great information in there, as long as the transcription, of course, is enabled. But summarize, to me, is just a really powerful type of prompt. The next one is transform. This is where you want to take something from somewhere else and transform it. So what I mean by that, what we first rolled out with M365 Copilot is the capability to have PowerPoint transform a Word document. So for instance, you have a Word document, maybe it's a 20-page technical summary or technical overview of something. Maybe you create products in your own company, or it's a project document that's 20 pages long, and now you need to create a presentation. In Microsoft PowerPoint, you can go and open the sidecar of Copilot and have it transform the Word document for you. What it will do is it will generate a PowerPoint presentation. It will automatically add in speaker notes, add in images that align to the content because it understands relationships, and give you a first draft, if you will, of that presentation. So transforming, I think there's going to be a lot more coming in that space that is extremely powerful. It gives you a first draft, and you might be asking, did I do that when I had that Word document that I said, create me an outline of my presentation? Absolutely, I did. I said, PowerPoint, go take a look at this outline, create a PowerPoint presentation based on that. So, and I will talk to you about the essential ingredients of a good prompt soon. I didn't just say create a presentation. I was very specific on how I communicated to Copilot, but very powerful. The next one is edit. So you want Copilot to really improve the readability, text, grammar, spelling, punctuation. You can do that in Word and PowerPoint, where you're on a slide and you can say, change the order of the bullets and increase the font. You can that will automatically happen for you. And then the last type of prompt, I think that's actually extremely interesting, is the analyze piece. This is where you want Copilot to do something for you, but collecting the insights. I'll give you and show you an example of this today in our Teams meeting. I will ask, what is the sentiment of our meeting? so I can learn how maybe we can improve. Perhaps it's been great the entire time. We all know not all meetings have great sentiment. We want to know why. It doesn't mean that it's good nor bad. It just means that maybe there's some passionate tone inside of the meeting. But I'd say the biggest one for the analyze space that's being leveraged today is inside of Microsoft Excel. Being able to go in, and the caveat with Copilot interacting inside of Excel, you need to have your data in a table. When you're in that table, you can open Copilot from the sidecar or the ribbon, and it will pop out into a sidecar, and you'll be able to ask it questions about your data. Do this type of analyzation, insert this formula, add this column. What are the insights from this table? Add all the insights from this table into a second spreadsheet. So the analyzation piece, whenever I demonstrate this, I always think kind of gone are the days that people really need to understand some of the advanced things in Excel. And I know that not everybody uses the advanced capabilities, but things like pivot tables and pivot charts are automatically generated for you through Copilot, which is pretty incredible for people who are living in that space and constantly analyzing data. One other thing to add here around the analyzation type of prompt is that you can leverage M365 Chat, which is that Teams app I told you about. And inside of there, you can point to an Excel file and you can ask it questions about the Excel file, have it do some analyzation for you without even opening up the file itself. So we are definitely in a new era of not only connecting to a new way to prompt for things, but also the innovation of how AI can help us and improve the time that it takes to do some of the things that we do in our work life. So here, the essential ingredients of a good prompt. I like to explain this very much like you're talking to your intern. And I know you don't, we don't all have interns. I've never had an intern, but Copilot is now my new intern, if you will, or my digital assistant. I'm not going to ask Copilot or my intern to go get me a cup of coffee, right? I don't even know what, if I had an intern, what they would give me, right? I want to be specific. This is no different than natural language. It really is using natural language. So if I look at what my goal is, I want them to go get me a cup of coffee, but I want to give them context. So will you go to, and by the way, Copilot does love manners, so will you please go to the nearest Starbucks, and maybe you know the location at this address, and I would like to order, I know it might be controversial for me to say, but maybe a pumpkin spice latte, which I would do it. Not a lot though, but a pumpkin spice latte. I better tell them the size, right? Maybe I want a grande, and maybe I want also an extra shot of espresso, because I have a lot of meetings coming up, and I would like it delivered to me, and here's where I'm located, and I want it at a certain time. So at 3 o'clock, I would really love that. So when I see an essential ingredients of a good prompt, we all do it every single day. Whether we're with our partners, our kids, our parents, our grandparents, our friends, we have dialogue. Honestly, the best response you're ever going to get, because if I ask for a cup of coffee, I have no idea what they're going to give me or when, or if it's cold. Like I don't want that, but I want something specific in order for me to have a good response. And get what I need to say what I need very specifically. So here, this example is a goal. What do you want from Copilot? I want a list of 3 to 5 bullet points to prepare me. What's the context? I have an upcoming meeting for with this customer. It will understand the customer because you have maybe dialogue in an email with them. You have meetings with them. Focused on their current state and what they're looking to achieve. What do I want as the output? So respond. Earlier I had said you can use M365 Chat to help you learn. So maybe I don't understand semantic index. I said, explain it to me as if I were a child. You can do the same thing and the essential ingredients of a good prompt by saying, respond with enough detail to provide deep context, and then a source. What is your data source? Focus on an email and Teams chats over the last couple weeks, right? If you time box that, that's a whole lot easier because I don't really care about our conversation that we had last year because it is now stale, right? It's kind of expired data, if you will. So as long as you can write a precise prompt using this formula, you're going to have an absolute great response. Now, what I will say is that even though I teach this and I think I really understand that it's really just about communicating and improving your communication, we didn't get trained on this, right? We've gotten trained on search. I'm looking for elephants in Africa, right? It will give me a response that is so generalized, which is why I think we are in such a great new era of AI, is that I can actually get very specific responses that cater down to exactly what I need by using just natural language. So earlier I mentioned prompt engineering. I think that's going to completely revolutionize the way, especially the younger generations, if they get taught how to create really good prompts, they're going to be ahead of the game, but it doesn't mean we right now can't start to do that. So if you are looking at Copilot, these are some of the things that you want to start to think about is what are your use cases that you're trying to achieve within your company, and what are some good prompts to get you there. So I'll show some of what some of the best practices are within each application. I did mention we have it in an initial set of applications today. So the first one is Copilot inside of Microsoft Word. You get a couple of the capabilities here where you can first open up a new Word document, and a modal dialog box comes up and it says draft with Copilot. So you can start right away by creating the capability of having it generate content for you. You can also change the tone. So you can say you might want it to be more formal, or if you're sending it out to someone within maybe your team, maybe you can make it more casual. So you can vary the tone. You can vary the length. You can say, create 5 bullet points to summarize this thing for you. So you can be very specific. Drafting a 2-page project proposal based on the data from this document and this spreadsheet. That's where you're going to really see a lot of the value, the more specific you are. You can do some editing. Remember, editing was a type of prompt I mentioned, making the 3rd paragraph more concise, changing the tone of the document to be maybe a little bit more casual, depending on your audience. And you can say also like creating a 1-page draft based on this rough outline. So much like I mentioned earlier, I had it create an outline for me, but then from there, I can actually have it summarize. I can have it create 5 pages of data based on the outline. So this is the drafting experience. Inside of Microsoft Word, you can see, I think I'll grab my pointer. Right here, you've got Copilot. This is the new ribbon. Of course, you can go to the classic ribbon. Copilot is located in the ribbon. Not all applications have it located there, but when you do click on that, that's when the sidecar comes out, pops out for you, and now you can interact. And it has prompt guides in all of those, so you can get started. And what I mean by prompt guide is this little guy right here. It's a new icon. You can click on it and open it up and try some of the new prompts that you have. So these are the capabilities inside of Microsoft Word. Next, I'm going to show you PowerPoint. Some example prompts for Copilot and PowerPoint. Be very specific. Think about what you would ask an intern. You know that you have maybe 20 minutes on this leadership call to go over 5 slides. The nice thing is you can be very precise about asking Copilot to build that for you. So create a 5-slide presentation based on maybe this Word document and include relevant stock photos. Consolidate it to a 3-slide summary, reformat I think of this as like I've gone in and I've said, replace this image, summarize, make a summary slide for me, generate the generate an agenda slide, only create 2 slides, use my brand. That's another one. If you start with your own internal brand template, you can create from there and then add or generate or transform a file to generate your presentation. So the experience right here, very much like Microsoft Word, you have the Copilot on the ribbon and it's in the sidecar. So as you click on that, it pops out and you have your prompt guide. You have an attachment if you wanted to include an attachment. And then you also have suggestions. So right here, as you see, we've got how do I write a Contoso project brief? What are the OKRs for this quarter? Or you can, click on the prompt guide to get you started. That's the experience inside of PowerPoint. We also have Copilot in Excel. I think this is one of the most exciting ones, especially for a lot of people I work with. Having the ability to interact with your data, giving you a breakdown by just asking natural language, what is the highest revenue generated campaign that we did in calendar year 2023? Who were the campaign owners? And it can just go through and give you that information. You no longer need to go through the 10,000 records that you might have to try to figure that out or do the filtering or the sorting. You can have it insert columns. You can have it concatenate columns. So think of any formula that you've ever put together. Just ask it to do it. It will do it for you, and it will tell you how it was done. But then beyond that, being able to have it create insights, which is a super powerful thing to say, take a look at these, 5,000 records and summarize the highest revenue. Did we stay in budget? If you have that as a column, some pretty incredible things that you can do inside of Excel. So that one's, I think, leading the charge for getting people really excited on some of those capabilities. All right, Copilot and Outlook. The features that we are rolling out and we have generally available today is the ability to summarize. My example earlier is you've got this long thread and you no longer need to go through it. You don't have to go read one by one by one and who said this. You can click on Summary with Copilot in order to retrieve the 5-6 bullet points that help summarize that 15 email thread, which is really fantastic. Some caveats, just so you know, I love to just share this because it is important. You do need to have your emails grouped into conversations and the newest on top. To me, this really makes sense because if you're asking Copilot to summarize something, it has to be grouped with something, right? So it has to be grouped. And then Copilot does a great job of doing what we call citations. So it will cite where it got that information. And that's why you have the newest email on top, because then it would go, oh, this particular summary of this one line that I generated for you, I'm citing this one email. And you can click on that cite and it'll go right into that email thread to learn more about it. So that's what the experience is in the summarization of Copilot. You can also use it for drafting. I think this is great, especially on the mobile device, being able to draft with Copilot. Normally, I think sometimes we tend to write emails really short that maybe aren't as friendly or concise, or we respond and it seems short, or doesn't have maybe all the things that we want to include in it because we didn't necessarily have the time to build that out. That's where draft with Copilot or reply really works well. So I can say, I'd like to go and plan a Teams meeting next week at this location. And what it will do is it will say, hey, team, and it just gives you a really nice body of content with my signature in there for me to send to everyone. So it creates that first draft. Again, I have to generate that, right? I have to say, okay, I like the first draft. Now I can go ahead and alter it if I want to. So that's important to know, is that really Copilot does give you that first initial part of whatever you're working in, usually draft, and then you can edit it. But you can do some more things in terms of changing the length from short, medium, long, to having the tone be more formal, more casual. You can also have poems. So it can say, write this in a poem, which is really interesting. And I think the school of thought there really around why we were making the capability in as far as the result being a poem is because it's easier to remember. Poems, music, they're a lot easier to remember when we're reading. And so I'd be curious who all will be using poems, but I think there are some companies that are having a lot of interest in it. All right, so that's the two experiences I've mentioned, summary as well as drafting with Copilot. We do have some other experiences that are going to be coming around coaching how to better write our emails. So I don't know about you. I certainly, when I create an email and I hit send, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I should have said thanks. I should have did this. Now, before you do that, click on the coaching with Copilot, and it will tell you, you could be less formal here. You could maybe not sound so negative. Here's some examples of how you can improve that. I think that's a kind of a game changer for a lot of us that might move a little too quickly in our day and send and reply to different emails. So those are the things coming up in Outlook, or that are there today in Outlook. The next application is Copilot in Teams meetings. This is the one I'm going to spend some time in towards the end here, and I'm going to go through summarizing our meeting today. I'm going to ask it all kinds of things, but you can do things like create a table of pros and cons for a particular topic. Were there any decisions made inside of that meeting? What are some suggested next steps that we need to do? Did anyone mention when we should meet next? This is absolutely great to have a more effective meeting in terms of collecting what was really said. A lot of times we're in meetings, we just go through them so quickly. Hopefully somebody took the notes. Maybe they did. Were there any action items? Yeah, I wrote down the 2 things I'm supposed to do, but I don't remember what everybody else was going to do. I mean, this is really a game changer to drive more effective meetings, as well as, like I said, summary or recap when you did miss a meeting. That's absolutely a game changer. I know many of us probably on this call, we have to be in 2, 3, 4 calls at once. Obviously, we can't scale. We know we cannot scale in that manner, but let Copilot help us with that. Give me 5 bullet points I need to know from this meeting. All right, I can read 5 bullet points. I don't have an hour, but I can read that. And that's a lot easier for me to digest. And I feel at least somewhat caught up on what I may have missed. But we'll go into a little bit deeper on Copilot in a Teams meeting in the demo portion. And then the M365 chat. To me, I think this is the most powerful. I did mention that to you in the beginning. As we think about Copilot being integrated in 2 different ways inside of M365, the first is embedded in the apps. And the second is this Teams app we call M365 chat. This is a place that you can ask it really anything around all of the data that you have access to. Summarizing a chat, emails, documents. I leverage this quite a bit when I want to get caught up on my manager of what we've been interacting with. I also summarize emails from a certain group of people or from a customer. I ask it about my different presentations a lot. I'll point to a presentation, meaning I'll put a link inside, and then I'll ask it questions. So those are some of the things that you can do. there's a lot more. Get me ready for my next meetings. When do I have a meeting with my manager next? Help me prepare for my day. And I just keep going on and on. I mean, when I think around, it really is limitless generation with a few lines of input. Ask it questions. It helps you in your research. It helps you in getting insights out of it. It helps you in generation of images, summarizing things. I mean, it just goes on and on. But it truly is your digital assistant of AI inside of your Microsoft ecosystem and your 365 services. So I'm going to make sure that you do get access to these slides. But these are probably the most important thing for you to take away here before we move into the demo. And I think I have it up here on my browser, is the adoption.microsoft.com/copilot website. That has a plethora of information, and I'm just going to go to it right now. But I'll say also thank you for your time and listening to everything here. I'll go ahead and end the slideshow, and I'll go into Copilot. So here's the adoption.microsoft.com website /Copilot, preparing, kind of the technical readiness, how Copilot really works, that orchestration. We do have a Copilot community as well. But what I love here is that we have resources by role. So within resources, most of you are probably in the IT pro space. Okay, this gets you a little bit more training. We have some really great video training that you can do to get you understanding some of these things. Also, adoption. Any of you that might be in the space of you've got to roll it out, you're in charge of that. We have a full adoption kit, a playbook, prompt guides, getting started guides, you name it, inside of here. So these are, I think, really great. I'll throw the link to this in here. I will also show you where we're at in our Copilot lab experience. These are the capabilities that we are rolling out, getting started with prompts using the Copilot lab. So here we've got featured prompts. We also have a list of different applications. So if you are in Word, what would you go ahead and get started with? Yeah, and you know what this really reminds me of? I think of back when we first rolled out Microsoft Flow, which is now Power Automate. We have kind of a pre-canned flows that you could start with. It would say the application it was going to interact with. So for instance, create a form, send the survey results to SharePoint, right? That was one of the automated things that you could do. You click on the button, it creates it for you. This is very similar. So for instance, if I want to say summarize a document, I could click on that. And we know that it works in Microsoft Word because I've talked about how it can summarize. And then I can go to more things like this. I can try to just copy the prompt or even save the prompt or share it with somebody. So this is our prompt library. And I would say, when and if you all, invest inside of Copilot, we're creating all this for you. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I would say that this is the fastest growing, just like ChatGPT to reach 100 million users. It is the fastest growing product and built product and developed product I think that we've had at Microsoft. So for me, this is just an exciting time that we can now look into our own systems and ask it questions that we've never been able to do before. So I'm going to leave you, and not quite yet, but I'm going to leave you with some of the things that I've already asked Copilot inside of this meeting. Just know that when you are in Copilot in a Teams meeting, it is my interaction truly with Copilot that you cannot see and nobody else can. So it's my personal interaction. All right, so over here, you can see the first thing you see is let AI handle the busy work, which is fantastic. I want it to. Check the facts. So knowing that response could be inaccurate. I think that's a part of generative AI. Do your due diligence, make sure that the data makes sense for you or that it is accurate. And then it is your Copilot, right? What I mean by that is Nobody else in the meeting can see this except for right now when I'm showing this to you. So the first thing I asked it, what is the sentiment of the meeting? I think we're all there, especially if sometimes you hop in a meeting, you're like, woo, you knew something had happened, or somebody was really passionate about something. You can just ask Copilot so you don't really miss a beat. What was the sentiment here? Apparently I said that I was really excited to give you a great set of topics today. Dave said, yeah. I said, we love doing these and we're excited to kick it off for you. And then Don said, yep, I knew it. Michelle was there. That's for sure. All right. So that's some of the examples of utterances. We have a really great agenda. And I think sentiment is based on, and know that in a Teams meeting, it's leveraging transcription, right? It's going into transcription. It's reading the dialogue. It's reading the context of all the things that are being said. And from there, we learn about ourselves, right? About what our tone is. And obviously, the more positive your tone, that's going to be the better sentiment. The more negative your tone, which might even be a tell for you to help improve, is that it will maybe recognize that and say, you use these words that really were more of a negative connotation. So that can help you out here. All right, Don. Yep. Let's get started. Stacy said, so what is B2B? So it gives you some of the things. And remember, I mentioned that it does do these citations. That's what these things are. So it recognizes the transcript and it will go right into that section to let you know where that was said. I then asked it, were there any technical issues? This is always kind of funny, but let's see. It said there's no major technical issues reported or observed during the meeting based on the transcript. However, there were some minor delays or interruptions in the audio or video of some participants. Okay. So Don said, let me get it up and running. That's sometimes the filler terminology we use when we're moving things or sharing our screen, right? Don, charting is going on, probably is chatting. So I think we're good to go. I think Stacy said, we all do. These issues did not seem to affect the flow or the quality of the meeting significantly. Now, I always find it interesting because I'll ask it, were there any technical issues? A lot of times it calls me out. So I'm kind of glad like none of this is shared with anybody in the meeting. It'll say, Michelle had a delay. She had trouble getting off of mute. I have no idea why, but it does kind of pick on me. And I don't know. That could be also my son on Xbox and taking my bandwidth up. So I don't know what it could be, but I do like to ask that question. What are the goals and topics from the meeting? Format each section with a bolded heading and a bolded list and bolded names. You can't really see that here. You can see their bullet points, but I'm on black background. All right, so it does say the goals to provide updates and information across M365, Message Center, and so forth. Again, the citations are here. The main speakers and presenters are, so that's kind of nice. What I have found is that most people who have Copilot are now doing introductions. So then when they go into Copilot and ask it who was in the meeting and what were their roles, give it to me in a table, you can easily copy and paste that into OneNote or wherever you like to take your meeting notes. It really saves on time. I'll say, I bet for years and years and years, I'm always ferociously typing in the beginning of a meeting. Oh my gosh, I didn't, what was his name? Franco. And then you miss the next person and you're trying to type in the role so you know who is who in the room. But it's never really great. I always go back and go, wow, I misspelled that completely. I don't think I got his name or his role right. That person I skipped. It's really now really great best practice in a meeting. I'm seeing when you have transcription recording on, just go around the room, say your name and your role, maybe what your agenda or what you're trying to get out of this meeting. That sets the pace and really changes the way that we meet, right? So now I can ask Copilot and say, okay, who is the project manager in this meeting? Or I can also ask, and I'll show you in a second, like who talked the most, and then I'll have and what is their role. So now you can see how it's going to change how we have meetings to get really good responses back. All right, so far, are there any action items from me? There are no action items for me specifically based on the transcript of the meeting. So far, because I had asked this when Stacy was talking, so that's good. Message Center updates and new features was presented by Don. B2B guest users shared channels, how to configure and use them was presented by Stacy. AI Copilot and how to harness it presented by me. You may also want to fill out the survey at the end, which we will put the survey link in there pretty soon in the chat. Summarize what was discussed about the Message Center updates. I'm just trying to think of what would I normally ask a meeting to get the highlights, right? So summarize it. Some of the Message Center updates that were discussed are, and it gave me a pretty good depiction of what Don covered in our Message Center update section. So you can see that, and quickly, if I wanted to copy it, that's something I can easily do by just clicking the copy button and putting that into the meeting notes. Now, I'm pretty sure we're working on something that's a little bit better than copy, like send to something, but I don't have anything to share at this time. All right, what links were shared? It went through. The reason why I asked it this is because people were sharing links inside of our chat. Why I wanted to show this is that the links that are shared in chat, Copilot doesn't have aware of because Copilot is leveraging transcription. So just for that distinct difference for you to see. All right, who talked the most in the meeting? Well, I don't know who's gonna be the winner now, because when I asked it, the person who talked the most in a meeting was Donald, who gave the Message Center updates and answered some questions, and that he spoke for 25 minutes in total. So now I'm going to ask it the same question. Who talked the most in the meeting? Let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, good, I spelled it right. Sometimes I don't spell well. It still is kind to me and gives me a pretty good response. So these are some of the things. So now, there we go. Based on the transcript, oh, I'm the winner. Michelle talked the most in a meeting, presented about M365 Copilot for about 30 minutes in total. I think it can't yet depict time because we're not done with our meeting. Pretty sure it's a little bit longer than that. I can recap the meeting. You can do some things around intonation or tone. I can have it, why don't I do that? So right now, I imagine many of us are in Minnesota. It's a beautiful day, by the way, sunny, and I'm going to go ahead and say recap the meeting in a voice of a Minnesotan. And I've never liked this response, but I might as well show it to you anyway, because for some reason, it thinks many of us are from like Fargo or the movie Fargo, which I don't really believe that we have that type of accent. However, it's kind of fun to do because this is really me personally interacting with Copilot. I also think of this as, are you ever in a meeting and you want to ask the question, but you don't really want to look, I don't know, dumb. And we say there's no dumb questions. Maybe there are no dumb questions, but sometimes it's nice to just ask it to somebody else. Sometimes I do that with my colleagues and I'll ask them something. Now I just go to Copilot and I'll ask them that question. And so it gives me that information. So I at least have a little bit more information in there. Oh, you betcha. I can recap the meeting for you in a Minnesotan voice. Here are the main points. Fantastic. Okay, Michelle Gilbert introduced the agenda and speakers and mentioned upcoming events and resources. We have plenty of those. Don Dene did not do a good job on the spelling of Don's name. Gave an update on the Message Center and highlighted new features and changes in M365. Stacy Deer presented about B2B guest users and shared channels and demonstrated how to set them up in Teams and SharePoint. Michelle Gilbert showed how to harness the power of AI in M365 Copilot and shared examples and use cases. And the meeting ended. So this is where it thinks we're done. So always know that it tries to be concise. The meeting ended with a Q&A session and a survey with 2 lucky participants winning $100 gift cards. And that's where we're going right now into survey land. So maybe Pete, Don, throw the event survey link up. Let everybody get a chance to put in their information. We want your feedback. What more do you want to learn more about? What other topics can we give to you? In December, we will have a panel of experts talking about Ignite and all the things that are going to be coming, as well as planning for our next 2024 speakers. So get all of your input in now. We'd love to hear from you. And hopefully, let's see, it looks like that is it for me. And I'll go ahead and open up the Q&A. And thank you, everyone, for joining my M365 Copilot session today. All right, I'm going to go into the chat, see if there's anything. And I'll go ahead and put in the survey. I'll put the survey up as well. All right, there we go. All right, let's see here. What questions may I have missed? There are a lot. Okay, yes, okay. I won't hold my breath. Okay, announcements, user. How about data integrity aspects? Will AI be able to determine what is garbage data and what isn't? Kind of like your search, you can't really determine that either, right? Data governance is something we should all be focused on. Certainly for any of our, you know what, I will share. I was at a conference, the M365 Twin Cities conference this past week, and the questions always come up around oversharing concerns. Those are no different than you've ever had, right? When you expose data, like in Search, like in Delve, and now in M365 Copilot, you should always be protecting your data and having data integrity. Some ways to do that is cleaning your data, putting DLP on, putting sensitivity labels on there as well. I would highly recommend what I learned from that conference is this woman was sharing to me that she's on a team called ROT. It's a committee, if you will. I don't think I remember all the acronyms, but it's almost like what is that data that's rotten inside of your company? Things that are overshared, things that should be removed, and so forth. I think that's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard around having a committee inside of your company focused on stale material, stale or orphan SharePoint sites, cleaning your data, looking at data integrity. Is your processes good? Are things cleaned up as an admin goes in and does something? Are your PowerShell scripts clean? Does it go out and gently end? There's all kinds of things we need to think about. But I think it at the same time, and I'll advise that if you're looking at Copilot, it should be a parallel track, but it shouldn't be related to Copilot. It should always be a parallel track to whatever you're rolling. Whenever you're managing M365, you should always be thinking about your data. You're really in charge of your data estate as an admin, as a security person, as a legal or data privacy person, to be looking at your data and really evaluating how you might be at risk by the oversharing. I mean, I love that we just had Stacy talk about clean up your directory services, right? Get rid of things that are risk. Same with data. Put in expiration policies on your M365 groups. Understand lifecycle content management, and make sure that you're going to reduce the amount of risk as you possibly can, not just external risk, but internal risk of people seeing things that you don't want them to see. So I think it's always still critical to continually monitor and clean. Now, there's a lot of Copilot products that are going to be coming out. That might be a hint. So just think about that as you're moving into the Copilot space. Of course, reports are always the best. I think another topic that's really good is what's called SharePoint Advanced Management. It's a newer capability. It's in preview right now, but it will generate those reports. Give me all of the sites that have everyone except external users. right? All those things that to me is low hanging fruit that really takes that 90% and just shrinks it really down, will really help you. So I'm a big fan of that, of data governance. Does or will Copilot work across multi-tenant instances? Currently, it does not. The data is secured within your own tenant boundary, and that's the reason why. I don't know of any updates that Copilot will be doing that later on. I'm going to guess that it probably will be quite a while, because we first are just securing the data inside tenant to tenant. All right, so coworker brought this up. Put on your tinfoil hat. Could a user with M365 Copilot license assigned ask, show me a list of all user accounts that have been disabled in the past week? All right. First off, you have to have access to the list of wherever this is located, right? You don't get to just go search for anything you want. It will adhere and it will recognize the same search that you have today. So the search that you have today, and how that's architected, and the SharePoint permission and the M365 permission models is what search keyword index leverages. Now, just think of it side by side. M365 Copilot is having the data indexed in a semantic index. So what you have access to, I guess around, show me a list of all user accounts that have been disabled in the past week. If you're an admin, chances are you might actually have access to that. So yeah, it will probably be retrieved. But again, it's all around your permission models, and will completely understand and align with your security trimming that you're doing today in SharePoint and OneDrive files. What is the difference between the M365 Chat Teams app I referred to and the M365 Chat Enterprise that is coming out, or is it the same? I think it's the same. It's an M365 Chat app. I don't know exactly what you mean, Jason, by Enterprise, but I know that we've called it in the private preview program 4 different names. I'm just happy that we are now just one name called the M365 Chat. So if you do have Copilot, or you're looking at it in the app permission policies in the Teams Admin Center, you're going to find it under M365 Chat. Your end users will also go to the Teams store and find it under M365 Chat when they're doing a search. All right, is there a site page that explains which features require the add-on premium license and which features will automatically come with a standard E3, E5? Good question. And maybe Don can scrounge and get that license for you. Teams Premium, I mean, those are certain capabilities unrelated to Copilot, but it's just another add-on thing. So yeah, of course, we have a really good documentation on what Teams Premium has. All right, I'll do all the first time, get a chance to play with it, all that. Okay, thank you for the information. You're welcome. All right, I just want to let everyone know there was a Copilot AMA hosted last Thursday. Thank you, Tom. That is exactly right. That is on the Microsoft Community Hub page. So you can find that on adoption.microsoft.com/Copilot. And you can see that here. Hal, can you put the survey link in the chat, please? Yes. My team on here, Don, Doug, Pete, anyone, are we also getting survey results going?
Yeah, somebody did throw the chat in, so thank you, Rachel. Put the survey in there. We're up to 46 at this point.
Fantastic. All right, Matt, is there a way for a person to clear the personal Copilot history? Throughout the early access program, we weren't and are not storing any of the Copilot history. I know we're working on e-discovery with Copilot, so therefore there'll have to be a history. I don't have any knowledge of what that will look like right now. But what I can tell you is that my interactions with Copilot, when I open up say a Word document, I do some interaction, I close the document, I open up Word again, Copilot does not save any of my prompts. So there's no real need to clear it because it's not saved. Can you touch on the 300 seat limitation and if it will change? Microsoft has heavily marketed this and is now limiting use for many. And I've had this conversation before, especially at the M365 Twin Cities conference. What I can say is I understand limitation. We're first rolling it out to our enterprise E3, E5 customers. It's just a baseline. It's kind of like the products when we roll it out to our worldwide tenants. You don't see it in GCC or GCC High or DoD tenants quite yet. So there's a lot of work that we need to do, especially in our backend and infrastructure, to change that 300 seat limit model. And we do that for the support of our resources and to really help us scale the product at large. So hopefully that helps you. I don't know of any more updates other than that for that topic. I know it's disappointing. What I also can say, just me personally, I don't have Copilot in a demo environment. At Microsoft, we don't have Copilot available in any other tenants for us to practice with. So all of my experiences have been inside of my own Microsoft environment. Copilot form a committee to clean up our data. You can certainly do that. You can have Copilot create you a racy document of who should be involved in your ROT or cleanup process for M365 data and all data that you have. So that would be fantastic. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Don. Perfect. I was referring what will come with a standard E3, E5 versus the add-on Copilot license. I'll let you guys hash that out. I'm wondering if the person with the question about being able to ask Copilot about showing deleted users is maybe asking about the most user objects needing to have some read permissions to AD. Any special concerns as an admin that we need to consider changing to prevent Copilot from being able to get info from AD? We are not going into AD. I know what you mean. The areas that you are able to retrieve right now is not in your admin centers. This is really around what search can retrieve. So if you think in search, you have your files, you have your, that you create in OneDrive, that you share in OneDrive. You have your SharePoint pages, right? Your intranet, maybe your learning sites and your training sites. You have your SharePoint sites, things that you are collaborating with as a project team or a department. Those are the things that you can retrieve, right? That have specific permission that you have access to. So think of, nobody is going into Active Directory. You can't go into those locations, especially if you don't even have permission to do so. Yes, will it be available for home use? Oh, Donna, I sure wish. Because I've been living inside of my own tenant. I want it personally. I want it to be able to create things. What I'll recommend is for personal use, the capabilities you can start to leverage today are the Bing Chat for consumer, or even Bing Chat Enterprise for your working environment. Basically, that gives you some of the capabilities. They don't interact or integrate inside of the M365 apps or connect to that content, but you can start getting a feel for that generative AI experience and leveraging the prompting and response and generating imagery for you. It uses Bing Image Creator, which is powered by DALL-E, to create images for you. So I'd say for home use, if that's the things that you want to start to get going on, I would get into those OpenAI services and Bing Chat to really get practiced in the swing of what you will be able to do when you do purchase the Copilot experience in M365. I think that's all my questions, and I did a pretty good job of filling in that time that's needed.